So somebody asked me, why does it have to be so perfect, you know? Hashem cares, a little dot here, a little dot there. So I told him, of course he cares. Hashem is a beautiful artist. Imagine if you have a painting on the wall, and it looks just like a hodgepodge of splashes of paint. But if you look closely, each detail is done with a lot of thought and with beauty. So the Baruch Shalom is the biggest artist in the world, and beauty makes a difference. It says we have to show what we're coming with. We're coming with something creates harder, something that's beauty. There's also a little mussar involved that the person diktuk and halacha brings a person to change himself over a little bit. Sometimes you can pick out the most beautiful esrog, and then you're about to take the shul, and you find there's a little chassav on the bottom. There's something missing there. And between you and yourself, this esrog is not so great. But
it's from the box that was checked already.
Oh, this is a good one. I got the one I can open up. He doesn't have one that's possible. He said he had one.
He's not there.
Oh, he's not there.
We can touch this one if you want.
What? So okay, I'll have to use this one. So that was So you see a little bit, so you come to shul, it's very easy. It happened to me once. You can just cover your hand on the bottom, but hold it next to the lulav. Nobody will see the difference. And it's beautiful lulav. Or you could take your son's chinuch set, which is kosher. It's kosher. And you could shake with that. So, it depends how much, your shemaim you have deep down. So, these little things on the esrog, it depends on your shemaim. Is that really kosher? Is it really not kosher? This and that. You have a beautiful esrog. Is it kosher? Is it not kosher? Your shemaim could come out in the details of halacha. Getting to a lulav, since we're already wrapped up, is to be hard to use. But getting to a lulav, what you shouldn't do when you walk over to a lulav, especially if the guy that's selling it is watching, what you shouldn't do is walk over, see is it a good lulav, like this. Pick it up and shake it. Because if it was good, it might not be good anymore. And that's not what's important to see how much it shakes. What's important to the lulav, there are certain things that make it possible, which we'll see soon. But assuming you have a kosher lulav, if you want to have something that looks nice and that's muhudar, so first it's nice. This is like a shmak, a nice fat lulav. It's really good. Has some beef to it, as they say. There's a shaila for oruch. There's a shaila in the poskim of being long is a maila. As long as it's a shear, there's no maila at all. It's being taller. Once you have a shear, who cares if it's bigger?
So what's
There's
shear?
some that hold that oruch is a maila. If it's longer, there's a raya bringing. If it's longer, it's a maila. It's a nice big lulav. It's a maila. A nice big Rebbe lulav. But there are others that hold that no. Once you hit a shear of 4 tfachim.
But the zebra going.
3 tfachim is the hadas and the 4 tfachim. Now 4 tfachim is the shedra. You have to know that the shedra is the spine over here. This is the spine, the green thing in the middle. Which in this lulav goes pretty high up. It goes till here, the spine, till the leaves split off finally at the end. You can see if you look closely, you can see where the leaves finally split off. Some lulav it's closer to down here. Depends where some lulav it's even closer to down here. Each lulav is differently where the spine ends, but we have to understand that the lulav ends where the spine ends. That's the shear of the lulav. From the bottom where you have leaves coming out until the spine ends, that's your lulav. This is a nice long lulav. But if you have a lulav, you go to chumrah, a tefach is 4 inches, so you have a lulav that's going to be a tefach over your hadas, which the chumrah, the hadas is 12 inches, so you have a 16-inch lulav from the bottom till here, till the thing, that's a shear. If it's smaller, it could be. It's still kosher, but try to keep it 16 inches from the bottom till the end of the spine. Sometimes in a short lulavim, it's a challenge, but in the longer ones, it's not an issue at all. So that's where your lulav goes to. Incidentally, when you put your hadassim and your ravis on the lulav, it should be a tefach not below the point, what people think. There should be a tefach below where the lulav ends, which is the shedra. If here's your shedra, it should go till here. If your shedra is still here, it should go till about here. It doesn't have to be 4 inches below. It could be 3 inches below, 3.5 inches below, but it should be a tefach below where the shedra is. That's how you put your hadassim and aravis, not a tefach under the point. People don't know that. It should be a tefach under here, under the shedra, because that's where your lulav goes to. So that's what a lulav is. Some people you see look at the lulav like this. The reason why they look at the lulav like this is to see how far it bends back. A lot of lulavim, this one's quite straight, but a lot of lulavim curve back where the shedra is, curves back. If the lulav will curve forward or to the side, that's possible if it's really curved. Usually it's not so curved. But if it's backwards, it's very common to be curved. Backwards is common to be curved. And if it's curved backwards, it's kosher. But it's a hiddur, the straighter it is. The more it looks like a sword, right? The less of a hiddur it is.
Why do you need hiddur? Where do you see hiddur goes on a lulav?
We learn it goes on the lulav. All the psulim are hiddur.
From where?
Right? So we learn it goes on the lulav. All the psulim of
no, but how puzzle and hiddur are two different things. Where do you learn hiddur? From what?
Hiddur is a
He just said, it says, 3/8 hadar goes on the lulav.
Goes on the lulav also.
How does it go on the lulav?
Okay, so you learn the sukkot, but it goes on the lulav, and all the and if it's not harder, totally is possible. Now, what we're looking for a lulav, most of the psulim could go on either roiv of the leaves, which isn't so common, or according to the Ramah, the middle leaf, the tuyumis, has a din like all the leaves. So let's say niktam if it's cut on top. But as far as maybe the makber dafka, if roiv of the leaves are cut, but we hold we're machmer Ashkenazim, the Ramah, we're machmer. We hold that if the middle leaf is tipped on top, that's a psul. It's tipped. Talking about bending forward, there's the age-old shaila. Does that mean the spine is bending forward, which is possible? It's very uncommon to be bent forward. Or the tip of the lulav bends forward if it's possible. Now, this is what we call a kneppel. Kneppel is a bend. This lulav has a kneppel on it. It bends a little forward. The top tip bends forward. And the middle one. It's a kneppel. It bends forward.
If it had a kneppel, we were spooning like that, no?
Now, the Rosh says he loves the kneppels. Because the kneppels means that it's good and closed and it's not going to open. It's not always true. You got to look at each one, but many times that's true. That the kneppel keeps, if it's closed, the kneppel will keep it closed. And he loved the kneppels because he held it wasn't possible if the tip of the leaf is bent forward. That doesn't mean. It means if the shadra is bent forward, but the tip of the lulav is bent forward, it's not. It's okay. So the Rosh held. Others held no. That if the tip of the lulav is bent forward, it's also possible. So again, the literature won't take a kneppel, but Hamish they take kneppels. They take kneppels, and the Rosh held it was mamash good. So that's the din with a kneppel. Now, if all the leaves are bent forward on the top, sometimes you have all the leaves are bent forward. I would stay away from that. Some hold even according to the Rosh that's no good. If the whole top of the lulav is bent forward, but if we're talking about just the tip of the leaf, that's not a kneppel. That's not a kneppel. This is what we call a stavensich. It's bending forward.
So cute.
It's bent forward, but it's not going down. The kneppel is like this. Take a look at this one. This is going down. This tip is here. See, it bends all the way down. That's a kneppel.
So the other one?
This is just davening. It's going forward. That's not a kneppel.
That's cute. That's cute.
Okay, that's one thing I saw it on this lulav, so I was mentioning that. So it goes forward.
It's going backwards.
Now, so if all the leaves are going forward, I would stay away from it. So sometimes you have the whole top of the leaf like all crunched together going forward. But if it's just a tip like this one, there's a tip of this one, there's a kneppel forward, very nice. So that's a kneppel which many people like. The leaf of the lulav, I wish I had one I could break open here. I'm going to take one from the bottom here. Take one from the bottom. I hope this wasn't bought yet.
Chandra is the lulav.
Uh-huh.
Now, the leaf of a lulav, everybody knows the leaf of a lulav, it comes doubled. I'm going to open it up here. It comes doubled, like this, see? It's doubled. It's doubled and fold over. Let's make believe this is the middle leaf. It's doubled and folded over. So, if it's perfectly closed like this, and this would be the middle leaf, you have a beautifully closed lulav. This is called, it's a shaila what the tiyumis is, but this is called nechlaka tiyumis. The middle leaf is called a tiyumis. Now maybe it's called the middle leaf is tiyumis, or maybe the back piece that's holding it together is called a tiyumis. The back little strip, which you could actually peel off. If you try, I'm not going to do it now. You can peel it off, that's called a tiyumis. But this middle leaf, according to us Ashkenazim or makbid, it should have all the dinam on it, which is, if it's nikdam, it's pasul. Now, if it's nikdam that you can't tell it's nikdam, you have to look with a magnifying glass, but it looks like it's, from further, it looks like it's good, That, according to most poskim, is kosher, because again, niktam is a psul hadar. It's a psul hadar, and it's still nice. If you get, it looks to me like it's not niktam. It has to be near name. That's what Rabbi Kivega says. It's cut off. Sorry,
it's cut off.
It's nicked off. It happens quite often. It's niktam on top, so that's a psul and hadar. But if it's not noticeable at all, it's such a tiny amount. According to Rabbi Kivega, that's kosher. It's a psul. According to the poskim, not just Rabbi Kivega, it's kosher because it's a hadar and you can't tell. There is a Tosfos that sells psul chaser. We'll get to that. Now, if it's split, if it's split. Now, if this is doubled over perfectly even, but many times, especially in the middle leaf, it doubles itself over only partially. It doesn't cover the whole thickness. Like one side will only go partially over the whole thing. It's folded over. It's not. Here, I'll split it already. Okay, we're going to split this. See, now we have nechel klatiyumas. Here it's split. We split it. Now, if it's split, the halacha is that it's kosher. As long as it lies together, it's kosher. If it's split, it's kosher. Unless it goes all the way down, or right of the way down, it's kosher. We'll try to be machmer that it shouldn't be split more than a tefach. Shavua says it's split more than a tefach. It may split more, but it's kosher. Yeah, like 4 inches down. Yeah. Shouldn't be split. It's kosher even if it's split a tefach, but we're machmer on that. Should better get another one.
Is there a danger when you're...
All of them is split.
They're not all split. No.
Is there a danger when you're inspecting it that you're splitting it?
You have to be careful. Now, if it's split, it's kosher. Now, if it's split, but it separates itself like a V, which happens quite often, it's a shayla of a hemnik. A hemnik is possible. So if it splits like a V, at the top it lies so separate, because the people having the finger and it lies like this, that's a hemnik. If it splits like this, it's possible.
You're talking
if
about the top
split,
of the Lulav now.
the middle leaf. Make believe this is the middle leaf.
Right, so you're looking at the top of the middle
top
leaf?
of the middle leaf. How you tell if it's the middle leaf, you got to go up the spine and to see where the last leaves split off. And this might have 2 tiyumas, so sometimes they have 2. This looks like it has 2. And that's the middle. These are 2 middle leaves that are smushed together, so it's hard for me to tell. These are actually 2 separate
How
middle
do you know
leaves.
it's not one that's now been split apart?
No, this is 2 separate middle leaves that are held together with a kaira. And a canal. These are 2 separate middle leaves. But in any case, you take the middle leaf and you check it.
Very good mudra one.
What?
It's a very mudra one because it has like.
It has a kneppel.
So if there's 2 middle leaves, both of them have.
Both of them have to be kosher. Now, if it's split like this, so if it just is split, okay, it's kosher. But if it's split that it lies so far apart that it looks like a V, it's separate, and when you put it down, it doesn't hold together. In the Lulav it'll hold together because there's more weight. If it doesn't hold together, it's better to stay away from it.
This is if it's more than a tefach, or...
No matter how much it's split, as long as it's
even a little bit is a problem in the
If it's
situation.
set apart, it's no good.
Now, interesting enough, if it's split, that's not a psul of hadar, that's a psul of, it's kilu nitla hatiyumas, the Gemara says, so it's a psul of chosar. If it's niktam, that's a psul hadar, that's possible all 7 days. If it's split, again, it's not a hemnik, it's just split down, that's a psul chosar, that's not a psul hadar, that's only possible the first day. The second day in chutzar, that's only possible the first day, the rest of Yom Tov is kosher. If it's split. Now, so what I was saying before is...
The first and second day in Chutzor, it's the same...
basically, yeah. Second day is a little more light, but we're not going to go into the details. Basically, the first 2 days...
and this is true with Esrog as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, again, if it folds over, but it doesn't cover fully, it only folds over, it only covers partially, it happens in the middle leaf, it's bent, it has to cover roiv. If it doesn't cover roiv, it's possible. It's very common in Lulavim. Roiv, most of the width, when it folds over, it has to cover most of the lift. This covers fully, but some don't cover fully. They only cover partially. If it doesn't cover, and especially when it gets towards the top, it could be only covers a little bit. If it doesn't cover roiv, it's possible.
Even if it's just the top inch or whatever.
I'm not sure how far down. It's a shayla. I mean, I asked a few people that weren't clear how far down. It's just mamish the top. That's okay. Sometimes it ends a little lower, one from the other. That's fine. But if it's basically it doesn't cover right of it, that's possible, and that's something you should watch out from because it's very common in a lulav. So that's the middle leaf. So again, split, nicked off, and things. There is something else which is, sometimes the tip is burnt, like it's burnt. It's white at the tip, and it could be a psul yavish. Mikra, these things are kosher because it's very hard to have a yavish that's mamish going to crumble off. But people do look out for that. If on the tip it's burnt, could we have a din that it's yavish? Yavish is not so common today. In the olden days, it was quite common because these had old lulavim that they were able to find. But today, most of the lulavim are nice and fresh. They're very not common to be yavish, but there is a sort of yavish. Now, what you have very commonly on the lulav is what we call kaira. There's a brown stuff that comes to the top. You know the brown stuff that covers it over?
Like that skin?
Yeah,
Like this skin, but you have a lot of thick of it on top. Yeah, that's called kaira. Now some people will say, okay, if there's kaira on top, it's a closed lulav, I'm just taking it, no shaila. Others will say, what do you mean no shaila? If you take off that brown, you may see that the leaves are so knocked apart, the brown grows in between some of the leaves, it's split, it's puzzle, there's no shaila, the skin could be really puzzle. And some people take it from the moicha, they'll take the thing and start peeling away at the kaira, and they'll open up and say, oh, it's puzzle. And the seller will say, you just made my lulav puzzle, pay me for it. It's a gross shaila because there's what to be seimachan. Those that do this and they hold that the kaira holds it together is kosher. There's what to be seimachan. It's based on the basis of shita. There's what to be seimachan that kaira is part of the lulav and it holds it closed, and that's considered kosher and perfectly closed. Is what to be seimachan.
So if you had,
it's not the bad. A lot of shitas hold not like that.
Would you take a lulav?
I wouldn't take a lulav like that, but many people will. And whatever your minhag is, if you take a lulav like that, that's fine. That's your minhag. You take a lulav like that. It's definitely better than taking one that's busted. So there's definitely what to
but you
be
shouldn't
said
be
for
peeling
that.
it off because
You can't peel it off. You want to buy it from him and then peel it off. That you could do.
Yeah.
You could ask permission if he doesn't mind.
yeah.
But that's something you have to be aware of.
So it doesn't look so good, but it sounds like halachically it's probably a lot safer if it's got that.
Could be it's safer. It could be it's safer.
Once you start shaking it, then maybe it'll.
Depends. Depends how stark it is. You're right. Sometimes it could open up if you shake it. Yeah. But that's called kaira, and that's
Yeah, really.
Little break.
What's
Don't
that?
shake it.
Is there any halacha about where this should be tied around how far down and how many ties around?
So how many ties is either 3 or 4 different shitas. So this is considered a tie. They actually do it very nicely. They put this through. They do this very nicely. They put this through the thing because otherwise, most people just put on this thing and it opens up.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it opens up. They do it very nicely. They put a thing in between there. I never saw this actually before. It's very nicely done, and that holds it together.
Huh.
Wait, what did
This-
they put it into the
Goes
into
right into
basket
the
That's a
handle.
thing. Very interesting thing to do. I never saw that. I used to tie it around on top, but this holds much better.
It
Learn new
freezes up,
things
it
as you
makes
go
it
along.
freeze. It never lasts more than a day.
Yeah.
It's
So
fine.
it should be tied on because you want your lulav and you want your ravis and your dasim to stay on the lulav. You know, if it's tied on the bottom, it's fine. But many times the kosher part of the lulav hadas is the top part, so you want it to be tied on.
Can you use a rubber band?
You could use a rubber band.
If
You
push
could use
comes
a
to
rubber
shove?
band. The shaila is you're holding your lulav and esrig. You don't want the rubber band to get between your hand and the lulav and esrig. This is min b'mina, it's not chaytzitz. The rubber band is chaytzitz. So on the top,
And it's
we don't use it. It's better to
purposeful
use this.
that one side is higher than the other side.
What?
That one side is higher than the other side.
matter.
So use it for that dasim.
Doesn't matter. So this is it should be tied with this and 3 other ties. 3 other ties. 4 times. Some people only have 3 times. Some people have 4 times. 4 ties. And until Hoshana Rabbi, you take it off. You just take it off. Hoshana Rabbi, you take it off. But otherwise, it stays on. It's tied together. And
Sorry, why do you take it off?
Why do you take it off?
Shake. If it's showing up, or you take
be safe. Be safe. You take it off. You take it off after you yotzi your mitzvah.
But all of them or just the top rate? What are we talking about?
Take them off, not the bottom one. You want to have your dasim narada stuff.
On a Hoshana Rabbi, you take what?
You take the rings off. The rings come off.
After the shanas or before the shanas?
When you're shaking it at the end, yeah. Before, well, you got to take it. Once you do the shanas, it's over. Any questions on the lulav?
Can you on the lulav itself or cast in the basket?
The who?
If you can tie that thing around the rabbis and adas and everything stays together like that, like they did over here.
Yeah.
But put it like inside the thing. Put this thing inside and tie it around. Do the same thing just with
Yeah,
the
that's what that is.
saying. If you put the rabbis and adas,
Oh, the aromas.
you could do that too, right?
Yeah. So that's the
How high does the rubber snow doesn't go? You say until the top.
tefach below the shedra. Tefach below the
Below
shedra. The Hadassim there and the Ravas are drop lower. Hadassim a little higher than the Ravas.
Is that at least the tefach below, or
At least
it
the
should be
tefach
exactly
below.
a tefach below?
At least the
I
tefach.
was saying in the beginning that the shed, the end of the shed is what? That's the end
That's
of
the
the lulav?
actual
That's the Lulav. The Lulav
No.
goes till the Shedra.
Till somewhere in here?
Here, the Shedra goes till here.
Till here, okay. So then, this is not part of the lulav. So why are we concerned with the opening or close? If the
Because it's
lulav
still a
ends there?
chasaron, yeah.
What?
Still a chasaron, but your lulav ends here. These are like the leaves, like by a hadas. By a hadas, you have the stem and you have the leaves.
So is it possible if it's open according to that? If it's not only part of the lulav?
Yes. Well, some hold that no. Some holds it's not possible unless the shedra is split. But we machber on the
On that.
Yeah,
But if it's not hither. Hither?
Okay, I'll just speak briefly. I know it's late. I'll just speak briefly about the hadas and the ravis. The ravis are fairly, fairly okay usually. And then we just have to check for niktam on the top, but usually it's okay. The only thing that'll make an issue is if it's niktam on the top of the arava and the leaves fall off. Usually you get aravis, there's enough leaves on there, it's going to be kosher. At the end of Yom Tif, when it starts hanging down, it's not l'chatchilu, when the aravis, the leaves are, instead of hanging up, are hanging down. According to some, that's not if they're all hanging down, you should switch them. Anyways, it's not muhudda by that point.
What about the black?
The black is kosher, as long as it's not yavish that it's breaking.
But it's first 2 days, so it must be all 8 days.
All days.
All days.
All days.
Because usually it gets dark and.
Yeah, it's not muhudda if it's dark and verfoilt, but it's still kosher as long as it's not yavish.
So you can switch them usually halfway
You can switch them. The hadassim are more of an issue. The hadassim have to be
The
meshula.
arabas can't come from a tree, though, right? They have to come from a bush.
No, they will, but they're rubbish trees. Yeah, that's fine.
They can't come from a tree.
But we don't have it here.
They can
In
come.
Toronto's Grove.
Yeah.
absolutely.
You can take
Kosher one?
a Scheiner Rava. You can take one of the Ravas that you buy and put it in your backyard.
That's right. And you just put it in the ground.
Yeah.
And it's gonna grow.
Yeah.
Okay. I just need to end. So just the hadassim. We have something called meshulish. The halachas of hadassim are very complicated. I can't go through all of it now. But basically, each place where it comes out has 3 leaves coming out. The best, it should be equal where they're coming out. The lachatchila, the whole share of the hadas, whatever the share of the hadas is, 12 inches, whatever it is, should be 30 centimeters. Should be meshulish. There should be all 3 leaves on. Shouldn't be fell off, and should be coming out of the same area. The question is how you count that same area. It's a little complicated. You see on the packages, Roiv Chazanish. The question is how much of a shear is it? 30 centimeters or 24 centimeters, whatever it is. The question is how much down, and Roiv of it has to be meshulish. If all of it is, but you'll be lucky if you find Roiv that's mamish coming out of the same area. So Roiv Chazanish is 16 centimeters. 16 centimeters.
Top, bottom, middle.
Usually it's going to be on the top, but you could count a little further down as part of your Roiv. It doesn't have to be in order.
Can the Roiv be split?
What?
The Roiv be split. Have 8 centimeters here, 8 centimeters here.
That's the Shalom and the Shabur, if they're very spread apart. It's not in your share. It's the Shalom and the Shabur. But again, it's complicated if the leaves start falling off. How many leaves and this and that? The best thing is to get one that has plenty of hadassim out there. Get one with all the leaves intact. If it falls off, as long as your leaves are on.
It has to be higher than the arava.
It's question how to count it.
The hadas have to be higher than the arava.
It should be higher than the arava. Yeah. These things are not market, but the hadas itself is market. To get 3 kosher hadassim, 3 kosher hadassim, you should check to make sure it's meshulish. Sometimes the leaves are coming out. One over here, and one up here, and one over here. That's not meshulish.
When you say higher,
It's a hadas shaita we call it. It should be coming out of the same area. Question exactly how to measure it. Mamish a line between. But it should be coming out of the same area. 3 coming out of the same area.
And all 3 of the hadassim.
Yeah.
when you say higher, means
They sell hadassim with huge leaves. The small little leaves, the better. The leaves are too big. Could be a shiloh. I don't know why they sell them like that. But
If you need to trim either the hadassim or the aravos,
what?
if you need to trim either the
The bottom. Cut it at the bottom.
you can cut from the bottom.
Not from the top.
But you can cut from the
As long as you have
bottom.
a shear. As long as you have a shear.
Right.
That's
That's from the bottom.
the tfas arabis are big, but that's the ones that are most meshulish.
Yeah. They're very big leaves.
awesome.
So I used to be uncomfortable that the Arabas was so much taller than the
It should be
Hadassah.
the other way around. The Hadassah should be higher than
I keep
the
trying to figure it out.
You can pull it down. You can pull it down.
So pull down the
Just be careful not to. If you do it like this, if you push it like this, you make it fatter, and then you stick it in, and then you could go up because you don't want to rip the leaves when it's going through. So you push it down, you make it nice and fat, you stick it through, and then you let it come back up. The mile of having this is that every time you hold it, you're not ruining your dasim and aravas. You know, you're holding it as protected from this. But I used to not put this on for that reason because it would rip it. But then after a while, all the leaves started falling off from my hands holding it. So that's why it's could be it's a mile to have this on. But if you push it down, it makes it fat. You can get it in, and then you could put it.
So tearing leaves is a problem, you're saying?
What?
Is that tearing leaves?
Tearing leaves, you have to make sure you have a share of leaves there. Tearing leaves, if but I love it if really fall off. But at Dasim, it's harder to. You should ask a Scheiner when a lot of them fall off. It's harder to count exactly what's called roiv. You do roiv of each set. You do roiv going down. It's another share by itself. How to count the roiv. But if you have enough leaves falling off, go ask a Scheiner. We'll get another one.
What's the best way to keep everything fresh?
Some people I see take this whole thing off, take it off, put it in the refrigerator,
Right, that's
and
what
then
I
put
do.
it back on. I think that's probably the
Do you have
way
to
to keep
cover
it
it when you
fresh.
do that, or because you're afraid the refrigerator is going to dry it out?
I
Or?
just put it in. You can put it in a
You
plastic.
put it into a bag and seal it. It creates a small terrarium which keeps it moist. You don't have to. You literally sprinkle a drop or two of water in there before, and when you close it, it becomes a terrarium. The moisture, it like becomes a little environment. And the key is you actually should fill it up with air a little bit so that the leaves are not touching the plastic because they'll go bad. That's how they rot. But if it's touching nothing, it's just kind of in the air, then it's like a terrarium. It's a little miniature environment with moisture in it.
Which is such a big bag.
Huh?
It's such a big bag.
You get the bag.
Very